Tonight, Ralph's Story continues his special report on the secrets of Beverly Hills with the revelation that there are really two Beverly Hills, the right side and the wrong side.
I love Beverly Hills.
I think Beverly Hills is a great spot.
I don't always say I live in Beverly Hills.
I usually say West LA.
First, Beverly Hills is two separate places.
Beverly Hills is really two cities.
I've raised my kids here, even though on the south side of Beverly Hills, and all my friends live on the north side of Beverly Hills. But
I think that 2 years from now, everybody I know, or most everybody I know who doesn't live north of the tracks, is going to live someplace else.
You see, like every other little town, there's a right and wrong side of the tracks. These old abandoned Southern Pacific rails are the schizophrenia of Beverly Hills, and the tour buses show only one side.
It has a very affluent section north of the tracks, and there are still railroad tracks in Beverly Hills. And it has a population consisting of people with children in school, homeowners, senior citizens, which comprise half of the population. They're south of the tracks.
The center of life in South Beverly Hills is Roxbury Park. There's a bridge table, a gin table, a pinochle table, and even a few jokers.
I'm about ready to kick in the bucket anyway.
No, you're not. I can tell. Listen, you're one of those guys who's going to outlast all of us, you know. I know you.
He's got a dog 92
yeah.
years old.
But some of these folks got a bad deal.
Why? Because a lot of people here can't afford it to live here, but they're forced to live here. There's no place to move.
I think what is happening, the elderly are being driven out of their community, away from their homes. Most of the seniors have lived here all of their lives. They have reared their children here, their grandchildren, and they were all left with nice little nest eggs.
If you would ask somebody for a price, or brokers, for the price of south of Wilshire, they'll tell you that they are above $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. And some of the houses there are up to $1 million.
Yeah.
So they're not boondocks anymore.
I know a lot of people 2-3 years ago, they paid very little rent. But now they are out, you know, the condominium sickness.
There are 8,200 apartments in Beverly Hills, but rent control stops at $600 a month. So single parents trying to put children through the Beverly Hills schools are simply being forced out. About 500 people are on welfare, and this house is for sale for $285,000.
No, I don't like it because I think every city has to have a mix of population. And if this becomes a city of just millionaires, it'll die.
Of course, not everyone south of the tracks is suffering, but not everyone north of the tracks is rich.
no, comfortable, yeah, but not hurting.
They were living comfortably.
I don't believe all of these people are millionaires, but I would certainly say they're wealthy.
So let's just say the wealthy, comfortable, not hurting people live north of the tracks. Their lifestyle and well-manicured mansions are familiar to anyone who's taken a movie star tour. But there's a secret behind all of that beauty.
We have the alleys so that nobody has to put their garbage out on the curb, except in a very few areas. The alleys serve as a buffer between neighbors. They serve as a place for the police to go on patrol.
41 miles of alleys for deliveries, utilities, and anything generally unsightly, like rats.
We have a major rat problem here.
I imagine there are 1 or 2 rats running around the hills of Beverly Hills.
Wealthy rats.
Wealthy, fat rats.
The rats seem to enjoy the palm trees. They love to sit up in the trees there. And they're well fed. There's lots of good garbage that is outside once in a while, and this is a problem that's been here for at least 25, 30 years that I know of. I'm sure it existed before.
Yes, the rats and everyone else enjoy the Beverly Hills trees, 28,000 at last count, and more planted every day. You can even tell when you're in Beverly Hills by the trees. That's Los Angeles on the right, Beverly Hills on the left. Developer Burton Green planned and planted the original Beverly that way. You can't quite see his house in this old photo. In fact, you can't quite see his house today because of the trees. Gene Klein, who owns the San Diego Chargers, lives here. Price, $12 million.
2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 14 million people are paying for homes here. Prices are being driven up, mostly by foreigners.
Do you resent that?
No, I think it's fabulous. We are getting so much culture here.
Famous realtor Elaine Young, who drives a white Scepter, is taking a local looky-loo around to see some comfortable homes. But how do you finance one?
When you buy a house like this, they're generally paying cash. Once you hit $1 million to $3 million, people are paying cash for the big houses. This is the highest form in sophisticated speculation. This home is $3.5 million. He designed it, redid the entire house, gutted it, and it shows off his decor and his style.
Will Rogers was once the mayor of Beverly Hills, and he's famous for, among other things, for saying, you got to buy land because they ain't making any more of it.
We are running out of land, we are running out of houses. That's what makes the prices go up.
Barry Dean builds homes in what they call the Beverly Hills Post Office Zone. It's really Los Angeles, but your mail gets a Beverly Hills postmark for those who want status at a discount.
What's this cheaper house behind us worth?
This cheaper house behind us here, in fact, was just sold for $950,000.
Well, if you're really hurting, you can still have a Beverly Hills address, and for only $40. A box at the post office.
Well, I guess you can really blame Will Rogers for the price of Beverly Hills real estate. He used to put little items about the town in his column, and then he bought up land, and when the town got famous, he sold the land, made a bundle, and moved to Santa Monica. I wouldn't say he was hurting, he was wealthy. Tomorrow we're going to tell you some more secrets of the Beverly Hills game, including how to play the game for status.
Where they are experts.
Oh, they are.
Like her up.
There's no place like Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills with the best of everything.
It reminds me of, we had to destroy it in order to enjoy it.
Where would you rather live, in the Bronx or Beverly Hills?
I look at the town, in many ways, as a very high camp.
Somewhere between the Bronx and High Camp is Beverly Hills, California. Camelot it is not, but neither is it Cucamonga. The natives have their own special rules and rituals, which you might call the Beverly Hills game. And today we'll show you how it's played.
I like to have a good time. We work hard and we play hard.
Early to bed and early to rise is a cardinal rule. Every park and pathway is off and running at daybreak. The bouncing continues all day. And you could say there's no relief in sight, but fortunately there is.
And 4. The whole thing is feeling good and having healthy body and sound mind. Moving, it makes you feel good, it makes your body healthy, your heart, your lungs, your muscles, your bones, makes you strong and healthy.
And that's rule 2 of the game, a sharp wit in a shapely frame.
And I'm here because I want to lose weight, because I have a new grandson, and I stopped smoking. So I put on a lot of weight. And I want to become a sex symbol. What a joke. What a joke. I want to have my face lifted next.
This is where we come as the watering hole to look beautiful. It's a land of beautiful people.
Everybody wants to look their best. You and me and everybody.
Isn't beauty supposed to come from the inside? I mean, can you make people beautiful here?
It goes together because when a woman looks her best, she feels her best, she's happier, and she projects better, and things go better. You can't just isolate the one from the other.
What do you think of the cult of beauty, everybody wanting to be beautiful in Beverly Hills?
Well, not only Beverly Hills, I think every woman in the world wants to be beautiful. I love flowers, music, beautiful paintings. Why shouldn't people be beautiful?
You don't see anything wrong about trying to look
Oh,
right.
of course not. I think it's part of what you should be. Age is in your head. I mean, I always ask this question: if you didn't know your age, how old would you be? And it usually stumps people because it's purely in the individual's mind. I mean, I'm 53. I feel like a kid. I haven't lessened up in any of my activities, and I hope never to. Why would I?
I'm worried about staying beautiful inside Beverly Hills.
But beautiful people are only part of the game. Margot Merkin is a car dealer, and fancy cars are a Beverly Hills cliche. For years, the natives have assumed that you are what you drive.
I have a Cobra.
In my Mercedes.
A little BMW like mine.
I don't want a Rolls Royce. I've done that now. It's like an...
What do you drive now?
Now, Cadillac.
Ah, but Miss Merkin has changed the rules of the game. For $200 or $300, you can drive a racy roadster like Rudolph Valentino today. You are what you rent.
These cars come standard equipment with screaming fans, adoring crowds, and autographs. We have a sheik that comes in that takes his whole entourage with him and drives out in about 10 cars. He takes 2 Clinades, 3 Rolls Royces, 4 Mercedes 450 SLs. It's unbelievable, and they all drive out at the same time.
The sheik and his entourage should feel right at home, though. This is one of the local oil wells, and it helps to finance one of the main attractions of Beverly Hills, the schools.
I like it best here because my children go to school here, and I'm very proud of the school district here.
Beverly Hills schools, of course, are famous, and justifiably so. They have an outstanding school system here.
It's education that I think really built Beverly Hills.
Our teacher salaries are the best in the state, have been for years. The class size is very attractive. Materials and supplies and equipment, we're well supported. We spend this year around $2,700 per pupil. The state average is around $1,700.
But Superintendent Ken Peters also told me that enrollment is down. Parents with young children just can't afford a home in Beverly Hills anymore.
This is the best place in Southern California for a public high school that you could go to.
To send your child through the Beverly Hills High School is one of the main goals of the Beverly Hills game. There are 2,200 very bright, very competitive, above-average students, all preparing for the best college money can buy. A problem, according to phys ed teacher Dixie Zovac.
A lot of these parents have really worked and sacrificed to move here. They want to get the best education for their kids. Their kids come into school, and now they are maybe getting B's and C's. They're not going to get into Princeton or Stanford or Harvard. And they're saying, hey, look at how much we sacrificed, and look what you're doing. So the child is under a lot of pressure. And if they can't make it honestly, there's a lot of pressure to cheat.
How about the pressure to crack?
We have a full-time psychologist on our staff. I think not a whole lot of schools have that.
I think values get distorted when we're in pursuit of affluence.
Mike Mayer is director of the Maple Center, the busiest mental health counselors west of the Menninger Clinic. For the whole family, you see, playing the game takes its toll. And there really is a game. You start with credit and try to accumulate status. And Marv Rubinek, the owner of the toy store, explained how to rack up some points in real life.
That you can draw great similarities between the game and the actuality of the people themselves.
For instance, 10 points for a breakfast meeting at Nate and Al's.
Well, we don't have a Wailing Wall, but we have Nate and Al's.
5 points for dinner at the Bistro or Jimmy's, but 10 points for dinner at El Padrino with the Dean of Beverly Hills Chefs, Henry Becker, because he only works Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you spot a celebrity on the street, you lose 5 points if you gush up and say,
Hi, Zalba. She says, hello, dear.
And you lose 15 if it's Ava. Gain 20 points if you know what's inside the Fowler Museum. And gain 25 points for going to the Ginger Man on Sunday afternoon and pretending not to notice that George Siegel is playing the banjo. Of course, you can lose 20 points if you're seen waiting for the bus. In fact, if you lose enough status points, you have to go to the Valley. But not to worry, you're in good company.
I live in the Valley.
I live in the San Fernando Valley.
I live in the San Fernando Valley, Sherman Oaks.
You mean you go to the Valley?
I go to the Valley.
Yeah, there really is a Beverly Hills game, and I brought it along. It costs $25, and all the places that we've talked about is on the board here, and you can play it. You can also lose status, which I think I have in Beverly Hills, and I think I'm going to the Valley. And my associate producer, Debbie Ack, who did most of what you saw, she's going to West Hollywood. She doesn't have any more status either.
Ralph.
Never get beyond the door, Giorgio's.
Phil Stout is giving you a mean stare.
That's the only one he has.
Thank you, Ralph, for a joyful series. We really enjoyed it.